Hello, in this video I'm going to talk about how to take better snapshots. Snapshots were taken casually to, keep some good memories, or something interesting happened, you take your cell phone snapshot. Okay, a lot of times people take snapshots as hobbyists, and you see them on social media like Facebook, WeChat, and you'll notice a difference in quality. Some people just take nicer pictures than others. I hope this video will help you take better pictures, casual, non-professional pictures, with whatever you have, cell phone, DSLR, or mirrorless camera. I am not a professional photographer, so this is what worked for me. I hope it will help you. So first, let's take a look at this picture. This was taken by my wife a couple years ago of my daughter. We were hiking in the park, and the lighting is not professional. Obviously, it's afternoon sunlight. It left a very deep shadow on half of my daughter's face, and there's no fill light. It's not a professional setting. That said, this is still a very nice picture. It's a very good family photo. The composition, the expression on the face, the lighting, given the lighting conditions, available light, everything is pretty nice because my wife is a very good photographer herself. She has professional gear, and even with the cell phone, I think that was iPhone 14 Plus, she can still take very nice snapshots. On the other hand, if somebody with no training or whatever is not a good photographer, and even if you give that person professional gear, that person may not be able to produce the image of this quality. So the skill is very important in creating nice snapshots. My first tip on taking snapshot is capturing the moment. This picture shows a flock of pelicans flying below me. I was on a cliff. This was taken in Northern California. The moment would have passed very quickly, but I just grabbed my camera with whatever lens, I believe it was 50mm prime lens, and snapped a few shots. This is one of them. A lot of times things just happen. You need to be prepared. Grab whatever you have, cell phone, camera, and just take the picture. Do not hesitate. Capturing the moment is more important than just swapping lenses, then you miss the shot. Being able to capture the moment is more important than getting the perfect picture. This is another example, also Northern California, taken with a 50mm prime lens. A flock of birds flew toward me, and I snapped this shot right away. No time, just snap the shot, and I think this picture is very nice. The sun, the cloud, and also the flock of birds. My second tip is identify your subject and make your subject stand out. So this is a picture of my daughter's favorite food in a Japanese restaurant. Some salmon and fish eggs and stuff. And I also showed my daughter's hand. She was very little back then. But this is a nice picture because it forces you to focus on the food. And there's very little distraction because it was shot wide open at f1.8 with the prime lens. And so this is a classic example of having the subject standing out. The daughter's hand just enhanced the story, telling the story that this is my daughter's favorite food. So this is a good memory. This picture was taken a couple weeks ago on our trip to a private school. My daughter was interviewed at the school, and when the interview ended, we dined at a restaurant and inn. This restaurant, inn, I think President Dwight Eisenhower stayed here maybe back in the 1960s. So this picture, the subject, apparently is not this restaurant. It is my daughter. She was looking at her menu. I took this picture at f1.8, which allows me to make the background very blurry. If you have f1.4 lens or faster lens, use it. That will create even blurrier background and make your subject stand out even more. So that's the tip number one. Make the subject stand out. Identify the subject, make it stand out. If the environment does not contribute to the subject, blur it. Blur the environment, blur the background. Otherwise, they become distracting. Here's a picture of my daughter taken a few years back, and she was wearing a traditional Chinese dress, and her mother was right behind her. Despite the fact I used a 200 millimeter prime lens, not prime lens, zoom lens, yeah, at 200 millimeter f2.8, the background is very blurry. Her mother is still clearly visible. And this is an example of something in the background distract from the subject. They attract people's attention. So if I use some AI software to remove the background person, the picture would have looked much nicer. So eliminate the elements that does not enhance your subject or distract from the subject. Distract people's attention. That's not a good thing. So sometimes simplicity is the king. The simpler the composition, the better. Do not fill your photo with all kinds of random elements. That's not a good photo. Yeah. Identify your subject, make your subject stand out, and make everything else blurry, or anything that does not contribute to the story or to the subject blurry. Yeah. My next tip is to use in the environment to enhance your subject and tell the story. So this is a picture of a bird with a fish between its beaks. This was taken a few years ago at the Everglades National Park. And I did include some environment, the swamp. It tells a story, enhance the story because it tells you where the bird lives. The bird lives in the swamp. When the environment enhances the subject and tells the story, you should include some environment. This picture was taken at the Old Sturbridge Village near Worcester, Massachusetts. This is a 17th century village, and this is a blacksmith workshop. Obviously, the person is a modern person. The glasses are modern glasses. She was dressed in this 17th century blacksmith costume, and to show us how life was like back then. And I did include a lot of environment elements to show the workshop, the tools, the hammers, the furnace. This helps enhance the subject to tell the story, her work environment. So include some environment when it tells the story or enhance the subject. My next tip is just a collection of cliched composition rules. Remember, photography is art, it's not math. All the cliched rules are meant to be broken, so use your own judgment. Now, this picture was taken in 2017 in Yunnan province, a period of my life where I was able to travel between China and the US a total of 8 times back and forth, and visiting a bunch of national parks and beautiful cities between the two countries. And you can see Yunnan is a very beautiful province, and this is called the Chama Gudao, a horse and tea ancient route. And they're tourists and led by a tour guide. The 3 tourists were on horsebacks. Now, this picture embodies 2 very cliched photography rules. One is the rule of third. The overcast sky and the swamp and the tree line and the mountain each takes about a third of the frame. You can see here the sky a third, swamp a third, and the middle part a third. And another rule reflecting this picture is the more space where your person or subject is facing. So the horses are a little bit to the left, so there's more space to the right-hand side than the left-hand side, because the horses are moving from the left to right. If the horses are placed close to the right edge, it gives a sense of the horses are moving out of the picture. That's not a good composition. So 2 cliched rules. Rule of third and leave more space where your subject is facing. And the third rule reflecting this image is the anchor point. You have a focus point or anchor point. So think of an image as a map. You want to guide your viewer through this map. So the 3 horses and this tour guide serves as an anchor point, a focus point. When a viewer is looking at a picture, the first thing he focuses on is probably this part. So 3 rules reflect in this picture. This picture was taken in 2022 in Iceland. You can see the glacier in the background and mountains. Again, rule of third. The barren land covered with rocks and moss takes up about 2/3 of the space. And then there's also anchor points. My daughter and my wife, the people are not the subject of this picture. The mountain landscape overall is the subject of the picture. The people creates an anchor point where a viewer can focus on. This picture was taken a couple years ago in Zurich, Switzerland, a very typical Swiss street with the national flags on both sides. And this picture also shows kind of rule of third. The left side of the street takes about 2/3 of the space compared to the right side of the street. There's also anchor point. My wife and daughter serves as anchor point. And then there's also leading lines. You can see the street serves as leading lines to guide the viewer to the anchor point, to my daughter and wife. So that's another cliched kind of example of cliched rules, composition rules. This is a picture of the Exeter Academy, the Phillips Academy in Exeter. Yes, a very prestigious private school, arguably the best, I think, in the country. You can see the main building of the school, and then there's a road leading to that building. And this is another composition rule of lines. The line guides the viewer to the subject. This composition follows a symmetry rule. So this is a shop window. It was taken, I think, a couple years ago at Carmel Valley, California. It was on Christmas Day, December 25th. You can see the candles and stuff. It's very beautiful, right? So there's no focus point. There's no rule of third. It's just a very symmetry. It conveys a feeling of warmth and festivity. Here is another picture that does not have a focus or anchor point, but follows the symmetry rule. It's a street near Boston University. My wife used to live here when she was studying for her LLM degree at the Boston University. You can see the trees, the leaves, the autumn, the fall color, very bright. The sunlight filters through the tree leaves, and it's very calm, and it's very orderly. It conveys a sense of order and calm. Yeah, it's a symmetry. This is a picture I took a few months ago of an old church in Brookline, Massachusetts, very close to Boston. You can see there's a very old car, vintage car, parked in front of the church. The tree serves a kind of framing. So use tree or whatever to frame your shots. That's another composition rule. And also use the subjects in the picture to enhance each other. So this picture conveys a sense of time and tranquility, peacefulness. The vintage car, the old church hidden in the woods. Yeah, so overall it conveys a very nice feeling, calm, feeling of time and quietness. Yeah, it's follows using the tree as a frame. So sometimes you should use frame to enhance your subject. Now my last tip is the story. You may want to convey some ideas or story through your picture, and you want that message to be consistent. Here is a picture of the auditorium of the Harvard University. You can see the Harvard flags and the young kids eating their lunch, chit-chatting, taking pictures. Could be some tourists. And there's also framing using the tree branches. This is a very nice picture because the elements in this picture, the green full of life, the young people having lunch, it sent a message: highly prestigious school, beautiful building, very good life. It conveys a message, and the elements in this image enhances that message, both the green trees and grass and building and the young kids. Hypothetically, we replace the kids with some homeless people begging for money, the message would have changed completely. So when deciding what elements to include in your photo, what to not include, a lot of times, the simpler the better. Less is more. Including things that is consistent conveys the right message. Now I'm going to show you two pictures of the same subject, this beautiful chapel of the Boston College, and tell me the difference in the mood, the message. So first picture, it was taken in fall. It was taken with an anamorphic lens. You can see the beautiful fall color with the branches, trees serving as a frame. The second picture of the same building, you can see it's very, very dark and gloomy. And this was taken in wintertime because it was overcast. The color appeared washed out. And the trees had no leaves with only black silhouette. So the same building conveys very different mood. The second picture is almost like a vampire or the ancient kind of a monastery with some evil beings staying in those buildings. Well, the first one is a very prestigious school, very beautiful campus. This picture was taken in Iceland of two sheep, a baby sheep and her parent, and you can see they had exactly the same expression. They were looking my way, and there's some environment of the lawn, the grassland, and this is a very nice picture. It conveys a very warm feeling and of kinship of the parent and child, and it's very peaceful. Yeah, lighting is also good, so this picture conveys a very warm feeling. Include both sheep, help build the connection between the sheep. This is a picture of the auditorium of MIT and the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. I took pictures of this building many times, and this is by far my favorite because there were always so many tourists with their cameras and stuff on this lawn, and they distract from this building because this is a very large building. It conveys a sense of authority, solemnity. Yeah. But with a lot of happy tourists with their cameras, these elements, tourists, distract from the solemnity and authority of this building. So this picture was taken in the summertime, and there happened to be no people, at least in front of my camera, except those in the shadows, and that has made the picture much cleaner, and it helps convey the sense of solemnity and authority. Yeah, so this is a kind of including the elements that enhance the message, but remove or avoid elements that detract from your message. If your message is solemnity and authority, you do not want to include a lot of happy tourists with the cameras in the foreground. So that's my last tip, the message. Be consistent. Okay, all these rules are meant to be broken because, again, photography is art, is not math. So use them wisely. That concludes my video. Thank you for watching.